to another version of Nerds on Tap, where we dive into deep discussions based around entrepreneurship and business. But it always has to be fused with new technology and how we use existing technology to benefit our lives and our businesses, all while tasting a flight of favorite brews that our guest has chosen. Today is going to be fun because I've been trying to get Mr. Damien Howell on here for a while, and we finally get him today. I'll introduce him in just a minute. But also, our stories today will be centered around exploring future hypotheticals of technology and its potential impact on the world. The emphasis here is these are all going to be potential future technologies, not existing, or they could be existing technologies that are in beta that, haven't been in production or, used by consumers yet. So I always love these types of episodes. So a little bit about Damien. He is the escalations engineer at Digital Boardwalk. We all love him around here. He does a great job. I actually was at a dinner last night hosting one of our customers, and his name came up by the customer, and they were raving about him. So he's always been fascinated with computers, and he's been using computers since he was a kid. His favorite show is Breaking Bad. His favorite pastime is playing video games, and he is a pushover, ladies, for Dunkin' Donuts. So if you want to get to this man's heart, it's through Dunkin' Donuts. Today we're gonna touch on, depending on time, we're gonna try to touch on as many of these topics as we can. We're gonna hit on brain-computer interfaces, universal translators, AI tutors, climate control technology, human biology alterations, dream recording, deep space colonization, and interplanetary internet. Now, we might not hit on all of these, but we're going to hit on as many of these as we can and talk about them. But first, welcome to the show, Mr. Damien Howell.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, why are you excited to be here?
I'm excited to be here because after watching all the other podcasts, I feel like there's always a lot of interesting questions, and also it's been very hard to catch me. So I feel like at this point it's going to be a really good episode because it's been such a long time in the making.
All right. Well, I'm excited to have you. I know we've been, like you said, we've been talking about this for a while. Some things came up. Life gets in the way, but we finally got you. So do you know how our show usually starts?
Don't we usually start off with a beer tasting?
Gotta have a beer. Edge, what do we got today?
All right, guys. So the very first beer that we have is the Sunshine State White Sangria from the brewer Island Grove Wine Co. Your senses will come alive with the fragrant aromas of pineapple, peaches, and mangoes. This fresh fruit blend offers you a light-bodied, sweet, fruit-forward experience that is pleasing to the novice sipper.
Mr. Edge, are all these beers today going to be fruity like this?
I can't comment on that, but we'll find out as the show progresses.
Okay. I just took a sip. I don't have a comment.
Damien, what are you drinking?
So I'm going to be drinking a Landshark lager from the brewer Margaritaville Brewing Company.
Wait a minute.
So,
aren't you working?
Technically off the clock as of 3 minutes ago.
Awesome. Awesome.
But born in Margaritaville, this island-style lager is a complex blend of hops and two-row caramel melts.
You have
Malted with a light, refreshing taste and a hint of malty sweetness. There you guys go.
You have listened to our show.
Oh yeah. So I will now be taking a sip.
Well, I wish I was drinking that. All right, so we're going to hit you right away with brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. So what if brain-computer interfaces became as common as smartphones, allowing people to control devices with their thoughts? Let's touch. What do you think about that, Damien? What are your thoughts? Here's the irony. What are your thoughts on that topic?
So I think that if we started getting like, interfaces in our brains, kind of like what like Elon Musk is trying to do right now with the whole like brain link thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna make a pretty interesting situation because I feel like you're gonna have those people that are like, black hat hackers trying to like hack into some like grandma's phone or something. And it's gonna cause for a pretty interesting thing because it's like built in your brain. So I don't really know how that's gonna go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
guess.
what are your thoughts then?
Well, I would want to know, how do you think they would change the way we interact with technology on a daily basis? That's the key thing, because if you're connected and you're working with the tech, I guess that would be the first thing I would want to bring up, is you're going to interact with tech on a daily basis. How is that going to change? And then we can talk about, the social aspects and things like that.
Right. I think that honestly the biggest thing is going to be we might be able to neutralize the need for a physical device altogether. As in like since we're going straight through our head, we'll be able to day to day, if we need to like search something on Google, we'll have the search engine built in to our brain. So we're either seeing the interface or we're just thinking the thoughts of it searching, and then we're able to process that and get the results that we're looking for.
That's
So
awesome.
I really think it's going to be an interesting thing because if we can neutralize the need for a physical device, we might actually open ourselves to more things we can do since we're linking it directly into our internals. Um, so yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking on that.
Hey, by the way, this is off topic, but who's your supervisor?
Jimmy Guest.
Jimmy Guest. Wait a minute. Hold up. Let's stop the show for just a minute. What is that? Oh, I hear you. Edge, do we have a special guest joining Damien on the show today?
I don't know. Let me check the other camera real quick.
Oh, look who we have in the studio.
Damien.
There he is.
How are you, Mr. Damien? I see you're drinking on the clock.
He's talking to you like he's Darth Vader, and you're.
Look at the lighting too. It just casts over. It looks so
Yes.
villainous.
He does, just like in that
Mr.
video, in the shot
Damien.
collar video.
Mr. Damien.
How's
So-
it going, Mr. Guest?
It is going well, sir.
So, Jimmy, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, let's talk about the interaction between BCIs and technology. What do you see as the immediately what comes to your head as far as the immediate impact?
I mean, it's very interesting to hear Damien's response from his age group, so to speak, versus what I would think of it being more of a 3D interaction of like a I don't know, like the Apple visor where you see like the actual screenshots of it.
Yeah.
He's more of like, this is going to be more of an interface, which is an awesome answer. It's just the different thought process was pretty, even though it's, we're talking about Neuralink.
Well, yeah. I mean, with any type of Neuralink, obviously, there's the obvious things that come to mind.
Right.
I mean, you've got the psychology aspect, which they're already doing today, and we'll get more into that. That's where you're hooking up. You're looking at a series of colors and listening to a series of sounds, and you're reacting to them. And what it's doing is it's checking your neuro network to see how your neural network is responding to these different things. So, for instance, like children with depression or suicidal thoughts or anything like that, they are actually doing that today.
Correct.
Where you can, hook up, and it has a really high success rate because it's retraining your brain through neuro waves, if you will, or responses to make your brain think differently, so they're not so down.
This is correct. I've seen some of the tests that they're running with Neuralink.
Yeah. Damien?
Yeah, that is actually a really crazy thought because, like Jimmy's saying, they have actually already been starting to do that where they have these devices mounted onto certain parts of your brain that when they detect certain waves like sadness or something being procced within your brain, then it sends a certain like it's like a certain kind of a jolt, if you will, that will
Mm-hmm.
basically counteract it and or make you go on to a different level. So say if you're starting to feel sad, it might give you a jolt and put you on a path to being happy again. As in, like, if something got you down, then you'll start looking at the upsides of it, and then you won't be so down about it, and it will change the way you're thinking about things, like your perception of it.
So, I mean, BCIs would revolutionize accessibility for people with disabilities. I mean, we just covered that. Are there any ethical concerns with the neural enhancements? What would the ethical concerns be here? Now, this is kind of a loaded question. And it's really hard to answer, but let's keep an open mind and just what are your thoughts?
Damon, you taking it away first?
Mr. Guest.
No,
your
that's some
turn.
good questions. I mean, think about it. What we've always been taught through the years, even through '80s movies and everything like that. You know, Skynet was basically a neural net processor. Basically the other things of it. All we've been taught to learn in our generation is AI is bad. Computers will take over the world,
Yeah.
and things like that. So if you look at it from that aspect, but also think of maybe, well, if you develop the technology to change waves, is there a thought process into it that you can start reading how people think?
I think today, if you look at those movies and look at what ended, how those
Right.
movies ended,
Right.
not always good.
Not always good.
We are right now living that Skynet era because we are developing robotics and we are coming along really quick.
Mhm.
AI is coming along, neuro. When you combine all these things in a more mature fashion, when they have matured, oh my God,
Exactly.
you've got Terminator.
Exactly.
So, what industries would benefit the most from widespread BCI adoption?
A lot. Healthcare, senior living facilities,
That's obvious. Psychology.
psychology.
psychiatrists.
I mean, mainly the medical field is what comes to mind, any top of it. But I mean, in some kind of practical
About
application.
space travel.
I was about to say.
What if they're wired in and
If they learn how to control REM sleep and control stuff like that, to where if
Yeah.
you did long space travel where you could actually go back and forth on that, that's a different thought as well.
so, Damien, I'm going to put you on the spot. What jobs would be made obsolete by this technology?
I feel like a lot of jobs dealing with tech inherently would become not as needed because of the fact, like, such as a normal computer issue, right? So say your day-to-day user is having a printing issue that they'd normally like submit a ticket for. Well, if you're integrating like a Neuralink system into that, then they're gonna have the inevitability to be able to research it on the fly and or have an interface straight up tell them what they need to press and or how they need to fix it. So I feel like in a way that a lot of technical jobs, we're not going to totally go out because there's going to have to be people that come up with the ideas for the Neuralink and stuff like that. But more simpler day-to-day things for like, like a normal engineer or something working a help desk, it might not be as needed. Or say, that's a good question.
Well, it brings it really, to add to that, it brings back more of the ethical question of if the help desk engineer is actually wired in as well to see what thoughts back and forth from there. There's also more things you could elaborate on that all day.
Well, when you go into the hacking,
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
immediately steer to security and privacy
Exactly.
concerns. I mean,
That's where I was.
what if could our thoughts be hacked and
That's-
manipulated or
That's
manipulated?
exactly what I was thinking.
So
Because I don't.
one thing that you guys keep bringing up is the use of
Do you hear a
computers
voice?
and
I hear a
printers and
voice.
stuff. But these devices are built into your brain. If you have a Neuralink, you wouldn't have to use a computer. You just think about it, and you're searching the web with your own brain. So, as far as like ethical concerns go, I mean, you're talking about like psychological hacking, like people being able to hack your thoughts or hack your own vision and doing all sorts of stuff.
You would have to be hooked up
Yeah.
to the internet
I mean,
or,
Or
you know,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, because if it's just localized, and you're just communicating with a computer that's like on-prem, like if you're disabled and you've got it built into the chair or whatever, to hack it, someone would have to come up behind you, I guess, and plug into that chair. But if you're hooked up to the internet, it's kind of like a Tesla. What was that movie where the Teslas all ran into one another?
Oh, that's
The End of Us or the End of the World, or
gosh, it was on Netflix. I know.
Anyway,
yeah,
those Teslas
self-drove.
It was part of the hack. I mean, they were hacked and they just went berserk.
Yep.
Which, I don't think that's on our thing today, but it all goes back to that and how that would play out. So final question on this topic before we jump into genetics. Do you think BCIs could lead to a new form of social divide between those who adopt and those who don't? Now, these are movies. There's movies made about this stuff. I mean, you've got one side pitted against the other. The first thing that comes to mind for me is, those who adopt, like anything controlled by a computer that thinks faster than a human, obviously it's going to give you superpowers. Like an exoskeleton in robotics is going to give you superpowers on a battlefield. Or to lift more things. Plugging in with a BCI is going to give you access to things that the natural
wouldn't have it.
Brain isn't going to be able to connect to.
I'm going to go ahead and coin the phrase here. Anti-chipper. Those are the people that don't adopt BCIs.
That sounds more like somebody that refuses to chip wood.
Anti-chipper. I think of it in like a cyberpunk way. You're going to have the people that are into the self-modification of it because they want that upper edge on normal humanity. But then you're also going to have the people that are like, no, I want my body. I want my humanity.
Yeah, they're anarchists.
And I want to be.
Right.
Right.
You're going to have the anarchists. They're going to be marking. They're going to be living underground. And then you're going to have all these superhumans living above ground using all these different technologies to try to rule the world.
Right.
Is that could that become a reality?
That's what we're coming towards.
Think about 1960 to 1990, okay? There was only telephone and you're talking on the telephone too much. After the 90s, 2000s, cell phones. People are talking more on the cell phones too long.
Social media,
right?
Head down. We call that the head. It was the head down generation.
Right. So then you go to this new era like that. That's a whole nother ballpark.
So I'm going to steer this one toward Damien because I like the fun questions to go to him because he's got some pretty wonky answers. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the genetics section. And if you could use those BCIs that we have been talking about or genetic modification to communicate with animals or plants, what would be the first thing you'd want to ask them?
So I guess the first thing I'd ask him, I'd be like, hey, what do you think of human adaptation? As a species, 100 years ago, you guys watched us just being these normal humans, but now you're looking at us able to Neuralink talk to you, or we have cybernetic arms and legs like that. Then you're questioning other animal species on your own, if you know what I mean. So you're asking them what they think of your adaptation.
I'd be asking my dog, Nola, if she really likes the food I'm feeding her. Because I never can tell. She seems to love it one day and not the next day. Or I'd want to ask her, why do you bark so much?
True.
What about you?
I would ask the cat why he meows so much. Or does his
Damien, what would you ask your plant?
If I could ask my plant anything, I would ask it, why do you die so often? Even though I water you and take care of you, why do you still die?
Because you have it in a closet, in a dark closet? So
Good idea here.
genetics, BCIs, mods, we're talking about animals and plants. Could this change how we approach environmental conservation? Would we have a moral responsibility to listen to nature's quote unquote voice? So this is fun. I mean, Edge, did you come up with these questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, JG, what do you think?
That is the age-old question.
It is?
I mean, well,
It's the first time I've ever heard that question.
think about it, though, and the aspect he's trying to make it. Think about it. You always talk about listening to Mother Nature. Are we doing right for the planet? Are we doing all these things and listening to the voice of the planet? So now you have all these things that will actually turn, and you could talk to plants, you could talk to animals.
Is the planet screaming right now?
Exactly?
Is it?
Some people say yes, some people say no.
Right? Good answer.
I mean, that's a multi-layered, a whole other subject we could get into.
It's a world divided,
Correct.
but most scientists say, yes, it is screaming.
And then there's the half that says that this is a cycle, then it goes back, and this is something that happens every million years or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of, it goes back and forth. So, I mean, it's a very intellectual conversation.
Damien, what do you think?
What do you think, Damien?
Yeah, that is definitely a question. So I think in turn, if we're able to communicate with the plants and we're, seeing what they think of the world at its current, I think they're definitely going to have a bit of a bone to pick with us, definitely as humans, for what we've done to them. But also, I feel like it might give us a bit better of an edge to figure out where we can come back and we can restore what we've destroyed. The plants can tell us how they, as people, how people reproduce and stuff like that and rebuild areas. It would be the same kind of thing. So it might be a helpful thing if we could communicate with the animals and plants, because then we'd know how to keep them around and keep everything happy,
But, are we playing God here by talking about this? I mean, I hate to use that phrase, but what are the ethical implications of modifying human biology to, interact with other species? I mean, if we could interact with other species, why are you laughing?
I'm saying we're going on like this one conversation that could go here and right back.
I mean, are we playing God? But
That's a good question.
It's interesting because I could use that phrase "playing God" with anything we've accomplished in the evolution of humans and technology. Over the last 1,000 years. So, when it comes to this, though, I mean, this is far-fetched to me, but so was a computer in my pocket just 30 years ago. So
that's very true. But then you get into a lot of the ethical and the religious aspects of it that starts to brings out more questions.
I mean, but if humans could communicate with animals, right?
Right.
How would that impact industries like agriculture, hunting, pet ownership? I mean, wouldn't it change?
Of course it would.
You might hate your cat, Jimmy.
You might hate the cat.
If your cat can talk back, your cat might hate you.
If the cow could tell you what it really needs to make more milk, if the bird could tell you what it needs, or like that, there'd be a whole different ballpark going on.
Our Yorkie, Hank, one day he loves me, next day I think he hates me. And I didn't do anything to him. He just reacts to me different on different days, and it's a little weird. Damien, do you have animals?
Yeah, I have a Shih Tzu and a poodle.
Interesting combination.
I never pictured Damien with a poodle.
Yeah. Interesting combination. I have to say,
he looks like he would have a Roddy and a Shih Tzu.
So the Shih Tzu fits. It's just the poodle.
Well, I have a doodle, which is basically predominantly a poodle. Mm-hmm. So we're brothers.
Well, that, and also to match, how poodles are usually like a bougie dog. Well, my poodle's name is Gucci, to really fit the meaning.
What's your other dog's name?
Her name is Bella. She has a normal dog name.
Dude, you look at him and he has a dog named Bella and
I knew he had a dog. I didn't know he
Gucci?
had 2 dogs. That's
Yeah,
something
got
I
2
just
dogs.
learned.
Bella and
Wow.
Gucci. Tim, I should have sent you pictures of this beforehand. We could have thrown them up on the screen.
Oh, well, you will. This is
Send 'em
pre-recorded,
back in
so
action.
you
Yes.
send him to Edge. He will throw
True.
your poodle named Gucci up on the screen, Mr. Howell. All right, so we're gonna jump into our we're gonna jump into our last part of this. Now, this I'm excited about. Before we taste our next beer, dream recording. Okay, so
That's interesting.
if we could record dreams like we record videos, right? If we could record them like videos, do you think it would enhance creativity, or could it cause problems like exposing thoughts we don't want others to see? Now, obviously, if you record a video and you don't like it or don't want anybody to see it,
delete
you're
it.
going to delete it, right? Now,
I just want to go on record. They did this on Total Recall.
talk to me about that.
On Total Recall, where they inputted
The,
dreams.
the remake with
Well, there was both.
or the original?
The original.
With Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger. Yes, they did both, where they inputted the dream and the life back into his brain.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah. And it was called, I forget the name of it.
And they
It was
did
called-
record video.
They
You're
recorded the
right.
video and they played it back. Oh, yeah, I'm a big...
Can always count on JG to bring us all back to movie talk.
Yes.
Damien, have you had a dream recently?
Yeah. I mean, I experienced what most people experience. You wake up and you remember like bits and pieces of your dreams, but you know it was something cool.
Fragments.
Yeah, pretty much because your
What
memory is-
was it cool? Can you share on the show, or was it too racy to share on the show?
too racy to share because I don't really have enough to make it a continuous story.
All right.
Okay.
I know where this is going.
And next.
So anyway, so if you could record that dream, if that dream was pre-recorded, right? Like it recorded automatically when you had it, what would you do the next morning? Would you delete it or would you rewatch it?
So I've had a few epiphanies in my life where I've waken up and I was like, wow, that dream I just had was like, book worthy. Like I could be like the next J.K. Rowling or something. So with that being said, I would save my dream and I would probably write a book on it because I think that'd be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Have you
answer.
ever had a dream come true? This isn't on my script here. Have you ever had a dream come true?
It gets kind of on the whole philosophical layers of things again, too.
Like I've had dreams
Yeah, I have too.
as when I was younger that many moons later.
Yes,
I'm talking a
I will.
decade
I will
or two
100%
later,
agree that.
it actually happened.
Yes, I've had that.
And I think my last dream, I had my whole family was in my dream, and all I remember is wherever we were, there were people chasing us, and there were bombs, and I was protecting my family and taking them through rubble. That was my last dream that I can remember having. And if I was plugged in to a BCI and I was able to record dreams, and I recorded that, how cool would that be to play it back for your family?
Hey, guess what? That's what we were doing.
Watch me save you guys.
Watch me save you.
So could dream recording become the next form of entertainment?
Sure.
I think I
Done,
could.
done, done
I mean,
practically.
Damien already touched on it. He could write
did.
a book, right?
Done practically.
Actually, there's been a study. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but in California, there's a startup company in the Silicon Valley that was basically trying to get people to visualize your lucid dreams or have others step into those dreams while they're happening. And it actually was successful. They had a full-blown successful test. They had two neural links basically hooked up to two people, and they went to sleep, and I think they gave them some sort of stimulant to help them to help them get the lucid dream to form, basically. But once it did, with the system they had together, they were actually able to communicate within the dream, and they recorded the whole thing. They recorded the interaction. It's insane. It
Can
was
you-
the first ever case.
Send me the name of that startup if you can find it, because we like to let our listeners know who this is, because I'm sure they'd be interested in finding some information on that. So if it was the next form of entertainment, imagine selling your dreams as a movie.
I was about to say they did this in Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise.
Would you watch someone else's dreams? I mean, we already watch reels and we watch other people putting on. I mean, I think my daughter watches girls putting on makeup to help her figure out how to put on makeup. So technically, people are filming in their own bedrooms, doing normal everyday stuff, and people are finding that fascinating.
Right.
So I'm sure dreams would be really cool, because it would be like the same thing, except in a movie production, because it's like a movie.
Right.
Damien, anything else before
You got me cashed on that,
I got him.
movie thought.
I got him cashed. He's still thinking about that
His,
last
book
dream he
deal.
had. Yeah,
His
that's
book
too
deal.
racy for our show.
He's book deal.
I'm trying to put the fragments together for you guys.
I mean, dream sharing could be used for
It's a
mental health therapy. Could it help with PTSD or anxiety, or might it create new issues? I mean, if you could watch your own dreams back, I mean, I know some of my dreams, they would scare the hell out of me. You know, why did I dream that? What the hell? I mean, that's your subconscious, just generating, what are they?
Sorting out your
non-memory.
It's like I forget what it was, but it's like sorting out conflicts that you're dealing with in your life or things that you want.
So before we go on to our next beer, final question on this topic: how do you think people would feel about dream privacy? I mean, if you notice, I'm touching on privacy and ethics and security, because that's what we do. Could dream recordings be used in court like surveillance footage? I mean, come on. I would think they would be able to, but again, it's your subconscious. I mean,
my movie brain's thinking here. They did that in Minority Report.
I remember Minority. Is that with the cop Tom Cruise?
Yeah, and then they would think dream it out, and then they would use that as the crime that they did not pre-commit.
Yeah,
so
they chased Tom Cruise because they found his dream.
So if you have the dream that you dreamed of killing someone before you did it, does it become that you're actually going to kill that person?
Well, it wasn't a dream.
There was what he was
into the future,
but it was the crimes they were going to commit, right?
Yeah, crimes that they were going to commit
that they haven't done yet.
Within
they haven't done yet, though. Still,
before it happened.
Damien, have you seen that movie?
Predestination.
I have not.
Or were you playing with Gucci?
No, it's probably I think it's probably before his time.
He was hanging out with Gucci. He was on a walk with.
It was before his time.
Before my time.
We can me and Damien have intellectual discussions on that.
What's up, Damien?
The one thing I do gotta say though, that is a curious thought, because I feel like when people do bad things that could actually land them in legal trouble, such as like jail time or something, I feel like it's, with most people, something that they can't forget, and it plays through their mind constantly. It's like a thought that never stops. So say you do go and murder someone, right? Well, usually those people will replay that event in their head over and over and over and over, because while they're thinking of ways they can twist and bend the story and to get it in their ballpark, their brain is never going to forget that action. So with that being said, say you had a dream get recorded and that's playing over and over in your thoughts, we could always have a thing where they have to do a sleep study on you. They can record a dream, pull it off of you, and then where they're getting all of this all these repeated dreams of this one event happening because your brain can't stop thinking of it, they can probably rightfully charge you if they have the suspicion of you doing such a crime.
If you were convicted already.
Right.
Right.
You would have to have previous evidence on that.
But
so,
I'm not a lawyer. I talk to lawyers all the time in our business, but I'm not a lawyer, but how would that hold up in court? I mean, again, we come back to, is this permissible in court? I mean, can we actually use this?
Premeditation.
This is built off your subconscious
Premeditation.
mind. Yeah, I guess premeditation. Because
Just think about it.
There's
Like
nothing-
polygraphs.
illegal about thinking about it. It's just the action of doing it.
But we're still talking about the ethical thing of your thing. You know, it happens. Let's say, like Damien was saying, you dreamed about it the whole 9 yards, and then 6 months down the road, it happens. So then you basically,
Well, on the flip side of this, there are clinically diagnosed, what's the term? Psychopaths that are normal, everyday functioning citizens that don't murder people. So just keep that, in your brain.
you're right.
You can't arrest these people for being just because they're psychopaths. They haven't done anything wrong. They might think about it all the time, but just because someone thinks about it doesn't mean that they're actually going to act upon it. It's that whole intrusive thought thing. Like you're standing next to a fire and you're like, I kind of want to stick my hand in that.
Yeah.
But you
I did
don't
that when I was a
because you have common
kid,
sense.
just to see how hot it was.
it's just
You're like, God, really would like for that person to be gone, but can't do that
Right.
because
Can't do
it just gets to the ethical portion of it. And then we're talking about ethics and the thing. It's an interesting conversation, though.
All right, Damien, what should we do next?
I think it's time, guys.
I think it's
time for
time.
the annual beer testing.
Edge, what do you got?
All right. So our second beer is another Sunshine State berry sangria from Island Grove Wine Co. The brewer described this saying, aromas of luscious citrus, flavorful fruit, and sweet blueberries will take you mentally to
This is sangria.
the island.
This is not beer. This is sangria. Jimmy's on the show, and he drinks sangria. And this is sangria, and I just took a big old sip of it.
It's good.
Yeah, it is good.
It's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
It's a little...
I'm
I'm sure the ladies like it.
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
It's good.
Pinky's out.
Oh, yeah, you're right. With the long neck and all.
Yeah, Damien, I think we need to hang out and drink real beer.
Yeah. Yeah, get some real ones. Hey, send that shipment over here. I got you. Next Nerds on Tap.
Have you ever gone beer drinking with Jimmy Guest?
I haven't yet. Actually,
Yeah.
on our Christmas party, I had a blueberry beer and he had a rum and coke. Something.
He's right. I did. Because they had no sangria.
Because they had no sangria.
This close.
Actually, I don't think my wife let me order it, to be honest.
It's actually not bad, Jimmy, but, drinking beer and then switching to sangria, this is headache central right here, buddy. I already have one. So let's get back on topic for our audience. I'm sorry I got a crazy crew on here today, but I hope you're enjoying. Again, we have Mr. Damien Howell and Mr. Jimmy Guest.
I think that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know it was Mr. or Mrs. when he's drinking sangria, but
It works
All right.
both,
all right.
whatever
so
fits.
Let's jump into AI tutors. So both of my kids have tutors, mostly for math, because God, math. Have you ever tried to? I had to help my kids with today's math. They had to change it, and oh my God, I had to get them a tutor because I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I know, right? It's different. It's not like what
It's not the same. What does they call it? Common something?
Oh, they call it something, and I looked at that and I went, "You got to be kidding me!
Why
are they learning different than us?"
I was more of the kid who, growing up in school of math, I was very adamant about not learning times tables because God invented a calculator. Why couldn't I use that?
I got my calculator taken away from me. You know why?
I did too.
You know why?
Why?
It was on my wrist.
Oh, Casio. Actually, I had one, but I never got caught with it.
Tim,
All right.
Kathleen was telling me about the math tutoring that your kids go to.
Yeah.
There's like a weird name of a style of math.
It is.
It's a weird. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Don't ask me.
It was like Shanghai
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And that to me sounds like Chinese math, and I don't want to do it. So, sorry.
True.
So AI tutors. Let's talk about AI tutors. If AI tutors personalized education for every student, right, which is kind of cool, would traditional schools and universities still have a place? Damien, you go first.
I for sure think that teachers and universities and stuff like that would definitely still have a place because some people don't grasp, even if it's a personalized thing, which in the future will probably be very helpful for a lot of people. I think a lot of people do need, or it's a necessity for them to have that physical hand holding with learning something. It just comes easier to them if they have a physical hand there to teach it to
But what
them.
if AI keeps getting smarter and smarter to where the tone, everything about it, the tone, the grammar, everything it's using is just like a physical person showing them how it works? I mean,
Right.
think about it, Damien, real quick. Think about it like what we do. We're in the cybersecurity business, right? And the
Right.
bad actors are using AI to be more sophisticated and mostly to change the grammar, the tone, and the formatting of their phishing campaigns. So it's not like, the way it used to be with a lot of misspellings and kindly sir and all that. Now it sounds like you or me.
Right. Yeah. And that's totally a good argument as well, because it's, they'll develop it to a point where it will be basically like every kid's personal teacher that they could ever wish for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It probably will get to the point where it's like, hey, if this is how you learn, the AI is going to do everything like that, and it's going to personalize it towards you, which in that regard, it does become a little scary if you're in like the teaching business or something, because then your job is at risk here over an AI that could potentially know significantly more than you and tailor towards a student much more than you would, because different personalities mend with different people. So if an AI is able to replicate any personality that will mend to yours, then it's kind of putting all those kind of things at risk. So in a way,
yeah. You could do that right now with a lot of things. Everything from avatars in your video games to make them more, kind of be who you want them to be, to chat bots and shoot your assistant on your phone, whether it's Siri or Alexa or whatever it is. You can make it sound different. I mean, I've got the default girl on my phone. My wife has some sort of sexy Australian man voice on her phone, which I had to front her out about, but
and I have the Indian man.
There you go.
Oh yeah, he does.
Everybody's different.
You have
He
leached.
hears
You
my
have
voice.
leached. I said, what the hell is this crap, Damien? It's like what he does on his voicemail. You have. Oh yes, he does.
I really
you have
do. I
leached.
really
You
do.
have leached. I'm like, what?
Hello, I am here to help you today.
And it's because I got to talk to the bad part is that half of it started as a joke, but now that I work in IT, a lot of these places are outsourced, so they do utilize like Indian fellowship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the sad thing is I've actually become accustomed to like understanding it. So in a way, yeah, as funny as it is, when you hear "keep it right at the fork," like that helps me be like, hey, okay, I need to be listening to this. that's my man.
I might have to change mine to that. Are
it's-
you on an Apple phone?
Yes, it's on his iPhone.
Sir.
Okay, I think I'm gonna. Hey,
So,
remind me after the
I
show
will.
to change mine.
Good other point though. You guys have bring another philosophical point. Think about like some of the latest movies and the latest TV shows. The one that really got me recently was Cobra Kai, where they did the last episode where they bought I don't misspell his name, but they brought back him as an AI.
Oh, and they did used AI.
Yeah,
it
it just
deep fake stuff.
but still,
Yeah, he looked. So I've seen that in a couple things.
Yeah.
that's one of them, and
but still.
he definitely. What was the other one? There was another one with a younger version of the person, but it still had a funky.
But there's some good ones on movies now.
No, it looked great, but it did have a.
Yeah,
because they used it so extensively in Cobra Kai because they had to recreate that.
It was
entire
Johnny.
Scene.
It was Johnny. Yeah.
It was it was a little weird. It was almost not. I mean, it looked real, but it didn't look like totally like the
Right.
younger version of himself. They did it with Paul Walker and Fast
Paul
and Furious.
Walker. The one was Star Wars Rogue One. I
Yeah.
think Peter Call is his name, the actor. He's been dead for years, and they brought him back, and it looked pretty real.
Yeah. Well, I saw it in another show I watched recently, or a movie I watched recently. It was a remake, or it was a part 2 where they brought back the younger or they had the history of the younger versions of themselves. I think it was Brad Pitt. I don't remember. Anyway, so could AI? So let's stay on AI. Could AI-driven learning help close education gaps?
Sure.
Or would it widen the divide between those who have access and those who don't? Again, we're on that same thing where neuro,
Versus
yes
don't.
or no,
Yeah.
AI, yes or no. I like it. If you embrace AI and you use it as an assistant for productivity,
It's great.
it's great. But when bad actors use it to expedite, like in our neck of the woods, with cybersecurity, hacking a network, it makes it a little bit
guessing,
more,
stuff like
well,
that.
they're having more luck with it.
Right.
Come on, guys, talk up.
Then for the little credit card machine that John Connor put in the ATM to guess the PIN code is not a real, a fake thing anymore.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
True. Yeah, and I mean the main thing is with that question is that it really comes down to whether you're going to have it or whether you won't. Because I feel like the people that will have it, that decide to take full advantage, yeah, they probably will end up being much more intelligent and have a lot less holes in their thought process than someone who doesn't, or someone who's against it. So, with that being said, I think that these AI assistants would be pretty well off.
Do you think educators are going to be against it or for it? I mean, think about it. Are their jobs in jeopardy?
They'd be worried.
I mean, would they still be needed? What's the goal there? Is it again to assist them to be able to augment? In my opinion, you're still going to need the educators. Use the AI to augment what they can do, so it makes them more powerful as an educator.
Right. Because, I mean, in a way, you're going to have teachers that are more efficient with their teachings with certain students, but with other people, they might not be able to mend as well. So that's one of those case scenarios where if they do have an AI assistant to kind of help them out, it can guide them as an instructor on how to instruct this person better. You know what I mean? But in other ways, that's just a hard question, man.
But are kids going to rely on it too much, and is it going to change like their critical thinking skills? I mean, is it going to diminish that? Because I mean, now they're relying on it so much. It's kind of like relying on a calculator versus long form mathematics.
Correct.
Right?
So in theory, that would be correct. I mean, you would change the dynamics of how they learn and how they're thinking. So think about it logistically. If you give someone the ability to do that, now that human interaction is now gone, there's a lot of more philosophical things to talk about on that. I mean, it's a very good point and a question. All in the same thing.
One of those, right. And that's one of those things where it definitely could present itself as almost not helpful to a person, because in a way, yeah, they can get it done, but is it actually helping them learn and grow as a person? Because, coming from someone who was in high school during the COVID event, which we all know, a lot of people started relying on things like photo math and stuff like that, which it uses AI to interpret certain problems and solve them. And then, it does. It tells you how to do it and everything. But most people are just going to use that for an answer. They're not going to directly use that for knowledge to teach themselves how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to keep switching gears here, guys, because we got a lot of topics to cover. We're getting through it. I got 2 questions on this next topic. Okay. We're going to talk about climate control, right? Climate control. I mean, sure, we have nests or whatever it is in our house. We can control them through our phones and whatever. But what if we had, Damien, what if we had technology capable of controlling the weather? Not the climate within your house, but the weather. How would countries use it for political or economic power? Think about that. If you could hack the weather,
So that is actually a great question, because now you're leading down the rabbit hole of certain countries. If they were, it kind of depends, because, if, say, their power at first is only they have the ability to control the weather within their country, but say then we have cyber attacks that lead to now you can control the United States weather and you're in Russia, right? Because it's kind of like when people were thinking Hurricane Milton was man-made. You know what I mean? That could be some sort of attack, because they could then develop some crazy Cat 6 storm that wipes off a whole state just because of some political movement. But it could also be a good thing, because it could bring profits to a country. Because
or you could prevent a hurricane as well. I mean, by controlling the weather.
Right. And then it kind of comes down that rabbit hole of it could become very profitable for a country, because they could have their weather circumvented in a certain light to where it's people that, say they want sunlight all year round, no bad weather ever. Boom, this is your place to go because they control it. But that also comes at a cost, because if someone decides, hey, they're going to overtake your weather net, then your country's going to be kind of screwed.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, I mean, if you could control the weather and you could change the climate in, say, the Midwest, where we have a lot of wind power, turbines, and the wind stops, and we could, I mean, if you think about that from a hacking aspect. I mean, I always come down to the security aspects of it, right? Because of the business we're in, cybersecurity.
Right.
If you could hack the weather and you could turn off wind in areas of the United States where where all the turbines are, which are out in the Midwest, New Mexico, Colorado, all those states, and you could, I mean, think about that. You could turn off the sunshine in the areas that the data centers use for solar to augment their power for those data centers.
Crash them.
Yeah. And I mean, what are some other implications? Can you think of some other weather implications that
willy-nilly jack the temperature up to 200 degrees outside?
Oh God, I didn't even think of that.
So,
or negative 100 degrees outside, or something like that.
You could fry people's brains.
So think about, I mean, this gets into another political discussion, but there's already supposed to be such a thing called DARPA, which is in Alaska. Look it up.
All right. On that note, we're going to end on that. We're going to dive right into deep space colonization.
That's a good one.
So if humanity established permanent colonies, I mean, we've been talking about this for years and years. We talked originally about the moon and colonizing the moon, which is basically just a rock. We're talking about Mars. I mean, that's where Elon Musk has taken us. If humanity established permanent colonies on other planets, how do you think society and culture would evolve differently from Earth?
It's a whole different...
Would we look up there and
go,
I'm thinking about taking a trip.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a 2-hour flight.
It would be, I mean, you would change... There'd be different colonization. There'd be different structures of government, structures of people who are living, the whole 9 yards. It's a really, I mean, I don't want to get in the movie.
But we talk about the people on Earth looking up and going, I can't afford it, but I'd wish to go up
to
there
the moon.
One day. They got it
colony.
made.
Yeah.
But then you got the people that are up there. What are the psychological and social challenges that they're dealing with in deep space? I mean, think about that. Completely different environment. We go from weather, we go from all these weather. I mean, what is the weather up there?
Negative 1,000 of the sunlight,
Damien, do you want to live up there?
That's when it gets to a crazy question, because then you're moving on. Different social groups might go different places depending on what they believe in. Kind of like Jimmy was saying, you get in a whole. There's going to be different governments and stuff like that. I feel like it could be really interesting, because then you're getting like intergalactic wars,
Well,
yeah. I mean, who is the government? Is it a
who colonized it first?
Well,
or is it AI?
Oh,
is AI the government in that range?
Who did it first?
I think there would be like a Space Force government. that is maybe, not just our country, but multiple countries that come together, and then there's one individual from each that sits on a board, similar to politics and our government, our Congress. You'd have all that structured, but it wouldn't be from one country.
United Federation of Planets.
What do y'all think? I mean,
it's an interesting thought because, then in a way, the original planet, so us as Earth, we could still retain control of all these other planets, and it would still be like a measured thing. But, I mean, if some crazy stuff happened, and you have, Space Hitler, then then you're getting into some real interesting sauce there. Yeah.
So,
see?
Well, what is the divide there in regards to inequality? I mean, you've got earthbound people that are still on Earth, and then you've got interplanetary citizens, if you will,
right,
that are up there. One's jealous of the other. I don't know how that would play out, but would it lead to a new kind of inequality? Is I guess what I'm getting at.
Sure. What if they find some other civilization or other race or something that lives on another planet and they align themselves with that and goes, I mean, you could say that all day. I mean, it's definitely a theory to think about that if you have that.
So I task you with one question. Damien, what would make you leave Earth?
What would make me leave Earth if we had if we had an entire world leader that controlled every country. So take out the countries out of the picture, take out all of our separate governments. If we just had one leader and it became like a communism, of a sort of deal, a communist deal, I'd be out of here. I'd be in Mars.
There you go. What about you, JP?
Total cataclysm.
What?
A total cataclysm.
Okay. All right. For me, it would just be adventure.
That's true. I guess I could see that.
All right. So staying on interplanetary topic, it's going to be our last topic of the day, and we're going to drill right through it. We're going to talk about interplanetary internet. But first, Tim Edge, what's our last beer?
All right, guys. So our very last beer is the Carlsberg Pilsner. This one's for you, Shoop.
This is a good one.
It's a Danish.
Finally, a decent freaking drink. My gosh.
So this is from the Carlsberg, Denmark brewer. Their quote on this beer is, "It was rebrewed for 2019. New Carlsberg Danish Pilsner."
You don't like it, do you, Jimmy?
Oh, it's great. I like it. It's really awesome.
With smooth, full mouthfeel and a perfect balance of bitterness and sweetness.
The problem I'm having with it, though, I was looking forward to this one. The problem I'm having with it is I still got a little bit of sangria in the back of my mouth that won't go away.
You need one of these.
Great.
Need you a land shark.
He's down some land sharks over there.
Shout out the land shark.
What's with all the empty bottles in the back? When did you start, Mr. Howell?
He just recently turned 21. I think.
Oh, you're 21?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, as of November,
I remember those
November
days.
14th.
I remember that time.
Cool. Damien, Howell, why don't you go ahead and lead us into the next question? Tell us about ISA cards. Or Scuzzy. Well, if you don't know that, let's talk about Scuzzy. Go ahead and tell us about Scuzzy cards. Never mind.
Talk about ESA cards.
These are legacy. These are legacy devices. So we're killing you, man.
Hey, I heard Scuzzy an A+, but that's about as far as it goes.
It's all good. It used to be the king of the crop when it came to bandwidth.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about interplanetary internet, guys, and we're gonna finish this off, and then we're gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions, Mr. Howell. So you better get ready. Actually,
I'm ready.
I'm going to let our special guest Jimmy hit you with those questions.
And he's
but first,
with some questions too.
What's that?
He's also going to hit you with some questions.
Oh crap! All right, interplanetary internet. So let's stay on this.
All right,
put your questions away. Let me see. I need to see them.
See what?
No, I'm kidding.
It fell down. I'm sorry.
If the internet, this is a wonderful. I love this topic. This is so killer. If the internet expanded into space, right? How would that change communication between planets? Could it work in real time? Some brain juice.
I think honestly, yeah, it would work in real time because kind of like, I mean, we've gotten to the point where we have fiber optic, right? Fiber optic in itself is ungodly fast, and we never thought we were going to get anything this fast. So honestly, if we're talking about like an interplanetary internet, I think at some point or another we'll be able to just transfer internet over like straight up waves that can travel at the speed of light. And then we're talking about, I don't know, man. I think we're talking about places can communicate pretty quick.
So
Instantaneously.
using existing technology, I would see a series of satellites that are placed in
Synchronized.
in low space, deep space, and at different lengths, kind of like repeaters, to eliminate attenuation, similar to our power poles on the streets. I mean, when you look up at a power pole, it's got a transformer on it that amplifies a signal, repeats it to the next pole, amplifies the signal, repeats it to the next pole. That way, when your waveform gets smaller, it gets bigger every time it hits those transformers, and then it attenuates, and then it gets bigger again. So I see it, I mean, using current technology, obviously they're going to develop something new. We're going to be talking about fusion and all this stuff that's probably going to open up entire new worlds. But with existing technology, I see layered satellites that can relay that. You'd have to have 1,000, probably several thousand, but you'd have to have them not just in one direction. The cost to do that,
line of sight.
That's why, I don't see it happening any time in our lifetimes. But if Damien's right, and we could blast a signal from his house to that's got a I don't know, but go ahead.
That's a good one though, because think about it. For let's say light, right? The speed of light. It takes a ray of light 1.26 seconds to come from Earth to the moon. So when you're adding that, no, that's off the head knowledge.
Okay.
But to your point, you would almost need like a repeater system or like a grid in the space, because if you wanted to reduce that time, we're talking about just from here to the moon is going to be a second and a half, right? So if we're talking to another galaxy, you're talking it could take 15-20 minutes in real time for us to actually get that communication. But if you had a repeating system throughout that, then it could make it instantaneous. But to your point, the cost would be so ridiculous.
So we're talking about a universal network here,
right?
We're talking about something that blasts entirely through space, which is kind of abnormal. I mean, it's just like your house. I mean, you've got internet all over the world, but you've got to bring it into your house from the street, and you got to pay a price for it, right?
Right.
So we're blasting it, and there's all kinds of technological challenges that come with just blasting it from one place and getting it all over and bouncing it, plus the cost. So would space colonies have their own separate internet systems, or would they be part of a universal network? Or what I see is having space colony internets, right, that are localized, but connecting each one of those and bouncing them to the next colony so those could communicate. I mean, that's how the internet started back in the day. It started with libraries, municipalities, police stations, fire departments, all the necessary emergency response that we needed. So those were all connected first. And it didn't come until we had a wise idea to go ahead and extend it past the government, past municipalities, to the everyday person in their home.
All right, so hear me out on this. This is just coming from networking fundamentals. I could foresee them creating something, and I'm just going to coin another phrase here, PLAN, PLLAN, Planetary Local Area Network. So think of it think of it like a normal LAN compared to a WAN, but now you have multiple WANs and all this kind of stuff. So if you're in ABC Galaxy, your planet or whatever might have its own planetary network. But any kind of information, website, communication, whatever that is outside of your planet then leaves your planet, goes to the next router, DNS server, whatever, for the other plan that's out there. But anything local stays inside your planet, helping keep the speeds.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like doing a DNS check or whatever. You look to see if your server already knows what it is, and if it does, it just goes ahead and sends it out there. But if it doesn't,
You get a 404 error.
it reaches out to the internet and so forth.
Planet not found.
So each of the planets will be able to have faster speeds in response with looking at things, but you're not sending all traffic in the entire world outside of the planet to request information. That's the only way that I could see it, is
Intriguing.
separating the planets or galaxies or whatever you want to call it.
Fascinating.
It's really interesting. Do
You
you
know-
guys think we'd ever hit the IPv6 limit?
Oh,
We'll be at like IPv30 or something like that by that time.
you know, it makes me wonder, you know, when we get to that point, you know, just all the opportunities it's going to create for jobs to, I mean, you're going to have, it's kind of like you've got folks that go offshore now to do things in the middle of the ocean. You've got all these crazy jobs. Well, I gotta head up to Mars. I'm hanging some, I'm hanging some access points. I'm putting up
Journeyman.
I'm putting up some poles. I got
back
a
up
line of
far.
sight.
Yeah,
I got
I'll be
a
out
line
for-
of sight Wi-Fi. You know, I've got to get installed. So, you
Set
know,
up my quantum bridge.
yeah.
Yep.
All right. So my last question before we get into the rapid fire round and close out for today. And again, thank you guys for coming on. Jimmy,
Thank
thank
you.
you for traveling 7 hours to be in our studio. And Damien, I know it's been your lifelong quest to be on Nerds on Tap. Tell all your friends. Appreciate you being here, bud.
I will. Some of them already know that are at DB.
Are they going to listen? Are they going to
Oh,
tune?
yeah.
Are you guys going to go out partying and go, hey, man, you got to listen to this. I'm on this show.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey guys, remember, copy link, share.
You know what you should do?
Subscribe.
You should call me while they're in there listening, so I can hop on the speakerphone in the car and go, "Hey guys, yeah, he does have me on speed dial. You're all he's a special guy." I'm kidding. I don't know why I said that. So I bring everything back to cybersecurity because you know, security is the main thing that we should always be focused on. Privacy and security. How would cyber threats evolve in a world where the internet spans across planets? Could space hacking become a real concern? Go.
You could for the whole transmitting and receiving of the data between the planets. How is the mechanism getting between those two? So they could hack that mechanism of the data that's being received to the other side,
You could cut off communication,
to the other planet.
you know, and data communication that
Right.
they might rely on. And think about this in the future, because data communication is going to drive AI. It's going to drive robotics. It's going to drive updates, patches, all those things within that planet. If you can cut an entire planet off, I mean, that's kind of like our
Cutting under-
interconnects that run under the ocean.
Ocean, that's what I was
on
saying,
the
undersea.
ocean
That's what I was about to
floor,
say.
and what happened recently
Right.
with the Chinese ship that scraped the anchor and cut the cable twice, not once, but twice.
Twice.
I mean, think about that. That wasn't an accident.
No.
And it was to cut the internet between countries.
So
I mean,
I'm going to say this. This is what I tell people that ask me about cybersecurity, like
Pull your question.
awareness, is if hackers want information, it doesn't matter what you put in place, they will find a way. All that really matters is what risks are you willing to take to benefit from whatever technology you're going to use. A lot of people tell me don't use these apps or don't use an Android phone or whatever because the government's going to steal your information. And here I am thinking they probably already have all of my information. I'm like, what does it really matter to me? I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not, I don't have anything to worry about. But you have those people that are legitimately worried that every time they use their credit card, that's collecting data that Google is going to use
against you.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. So it comes down to what kind of risks are you willing to accept to benefit from whatever you're trying to achieve. So as long as things will be digital, there will always be a risk associated with it.
Absolutely.
Someone will always
Yeah, as
fight
long as we're interconnected, there's always going to be a bad actor.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I mean,
All right.
Go ahead. You got something to say?
I was just thinking that whole topic just led me on like, you're almost getting to the point where that's like a new type of terrorist attack almost. Because think of it, if a planet is relying on technology to make it habitable, because a lot of these planets aren't. A lot of these planets are inhabitable to most people. If you're relying on technology to keep all these people alive and keep them able to live on this planet, and someone hacks in, takes their communications, and they're able to hack all their systems that control everything that make it a livable planet,
It's going to be
then
crazy.
they can kill everybody. They can straight up kill everybody. So
So
very
that you love that topic, right? Because it was a replication of your exotic dream you had.
I don't know if the fragments have aligned in that field.
I'm
yet,
just
but
picturing you riding on a rocket, traveling through space. Not on the inside of a rocket, hanging onto a rocket, traveling through space, and hanging access points.
Like Slim Pickens in the movie,
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate it. We are going to conclude today's show with our rapid fire questions. I have not heard these questions yet. Normally I do. I'm a little nervous about this. Apparently our special guest, Jimmy Guest, wrote some rapid fire questions for both me and Damien. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Mr. Shoop, if you could control one device with just your thoughts, what would it be?
One device with just my thoughts, what would it be?
Yes, go.
Well, honestly, the device I use the most every single day throughout the day is my phone. So if I could control my phone with just my thoughts, I would never have to remove it from my pocket. Damien?
Good answer.
Is that for Damien too?
Nope.
Uh-oh.
I have some more from Mr. Howell. Are you ready?
You should ask him about his exotic dream.
Mr. Howell, would you rather step on one giant yard rake once or an endless field of tiny rakes?
Oh my God! I
forever.
can't believe you just asked that question.
So
Tell me.
to my experience, I don't listen, guys. If it's a smaller rake, we're talking it might not hit my face because I'm a bit taller, and
Very
due
good.
to the previous Nerds on Tap delays, I think that Tim would even appreciate if it was a smaller rake, just because of my face wouldn't get
So,
busted
what are you
open.
telling our audience? Why were there delays?
So guys, if you're not aware, I got smacked in the face by a rake, and it blew an abscess in my face, and I had pus filling up into my eyelid.
Oh God! So,
Yes, he sent
did
pictures.
you just put him on the spot on air, and now it's going to be in this show?
But we're not done, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you okay with
more
this,
rapid
Damien?
fire
Because
questions.
I'm not. I don't come on the
We
show to embarrass my
have-
guests.
More questions. Mr. Shoop, what's one superpower you love to unlock through genetic modification?
What one superpower I love to
You would love to unlock through genetic modification.
Shoot. I mean, who wouldn't want? Oh my God, I'd want to leap a tall building.
That's a good answer.
I mean, who wouldn't want to? No, I'd want to fly.
You want to fly?
I'd want to be able to fly.
That's
I'd
cool.
want, like Superman, I'd want to be able to fly down to Lakeland without having to hop on an airplane.
Plant. There you go. So keeping with that, Mr. Howe, all right, on our topics that we've been, if yard rakes were sentient,
Oh my God.
AI, and seeking revenge, what's the first thing you'd say to negotiate peace?
First thing I would say to negotiate peace, there would be no negotiation. I would pull a chainsaw out and do the same thing they did to me.
Oh my goodness.
Very interesting. Well,
You're hitting him with a lot of rake questions. I don't know how I feel about that, Damien. I mean,
Heat burn.
Mr. Sheep, if weather control tech was real, what's one climate rule you would enforce globally?
I'd stop hurricanes in the southeast because that's where I live, and every few years something happens to my house.
All right, that's a good answer. I like that. So, Mr. Howell, this is actually a serious one. Okay, back on the same topic.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather step on a yard rake once a year,
God.
but never know when? All right, or once a day, but always at 3 p.m. Go.
Most definitely once a year. I just don't know when.
Yeah, if you did it every day at 3 p.m., that would be like what's the Gopher movie?
Caddyshack?
Caddy. No, not Caddyshack.
Which one?
Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog
Oh,
Day.
it's not
Yeah.
a gopher. Caddyshack. Same actor, Bill Murray.
Hey, I make up my own words.
Got it. All right. So, are we ready for the next one? All right, let's go. If space food became a thing on Earth, what futuristic meal would you want to try?
Well, when I was a child, I lived in Maryland. We took our field trips to the Smithsonian, and I always loved the space.
Air and Space
We
Museum?
would have been friends.
Yep.
The space
Yep, we would.
museum, and I always came home with a bag of space ice cream.
Space ice cream. Yes, that would happen at our museum here in Tampa, which was called the Museum of Science and Industry. Very good answer. All right, Mr. Damien, quick question.
But I didn't actually like it.
It was good.
But I always
They made
ate it.
improvements. All right, Damien, back to the topic here at hand. All right, ready? If you had to design an anti-yard rake defense system,
Oh my God.
what's your first invention, sir? Go ahead.
So I'm gonna make shoes that actually don't utilize like a straight solid sole like most shoes. I'm gonna use one that has like interconnected like toes. So if I step between the yard rake and then I completely avoid it. That would be my defense system. Is that I just
Very
can't
good
step on the
answer.
spikes.
Now, when can
See
you
what
have
I
that? Can you have that? Patented and out very soon, or so the next episode you won't miss because of that, right?
Yeah, 3D printing exists.
Got it.
So I got
All right, more rapid fire questions, Mr. Shoop. Would you rather live in a world where no one could lie, or where you can hear everyone's thoughts?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's like that Mel Gibson movie where you heard.
What women want?
You know every movie, don't you?
I do.
ever.
I mean, I think it would be where no one could lie. Honestly, because I think about it. Sure, I would love to hear everybody's thoughts, but I think it would drive me crazy because that would override and it would crowd your brain because you're going to hear them even when you don't want to hear them. So there's no privacy, no solidarity. Plus, you're going to hear things you don't want to frickin' hear, and it can ruin relationships. Second, lies. I can't stand a liar.
Right.
Can't stand a liar. There's two things I don't like in life: thieves and liars. And I don't know which one I like worse, but I hate both of them.
So we're going with the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey and not What Women Want with Mel Gibson.
Alrighty then.
All right, so this is for both of you.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then. All right, so this is for both of you, and it doesn't involve yard rakes. If robots could replace one chore for you permanently, which one are you giving up first?
Raking a yard.
Mr. Howe.
Dude, wiping counters. Oh my gosh. I hate wiping counters. Fun fact. Despise it.
Mr. Shoop.
Oh, Say
It's both.
it again. What's the question?
If robots could replace one chore for you permanently, which one are you giving up first? Which chore are you giving up first if robots could replace them all? And yard rakes are taken.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I'd probably I would say, you know what? I know autonomous cars are coming,
Oh, they're coming.
but if robots came before autonomous cars, I would want a robot to drive my car for me and
Good answer.
chauffeur me around.
Good answer. So that's all.
Autonomous cars already actually exist, and actually, if you watched Silicon Valley in one of the
An episode,
one
right.
of the episodes where the autonomous car drives him onto a ship,
Right.
it reroutes his GPS, drives him onto a ship into a storage
Breaks straight
container, and takes him to an
Oh,
island.
Right. Waymo has those cars now too, but that's another topic.
It was so funny.
So that's it.
If you haven't watched that, Damien, tune in. It's from years ago, but it's still
Silicon Valley.
relevant.
It's relevant
Such
today.
a good show. It's called Silicon Valley.
Say less. I'll check it out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude another episode of Nerds on Tap. I want to thank our guest, Damien Howell, for joining us virtually through the thing we call the internet. He joined us on the line. If you haven't watched the internship, you know what that means. And our special guest who popped into our studio, he actually drove up here, I think, 7 hours to come visit us, Mr. Jimmy Guest. And tune in to the next episode of Nerds on Tap, where we'll be talking about something fascinating regarding entrepreneurship, business, and a good fusion of technology. So cheers.
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 Cheers, my fellow nerds and beer lovers. Stay tuned for more Nerds on Tap. Oh, and one more thing. Help us spread the nerdy love and the love for great brews by sharing this podcast with your friends, colleagues, and fellow beer enthusiasts. Let's build a community that embraces curiosity, innovation, and the enjoyment of a cold one.